Hello and welcome back. The nature of animals is such that they live their lives processing what is going on right at that time, where they are, what they see, what they need, and if they feel safe. And humans are like that too sometimes, but also spend a great deal of time thinking back on the past and contemplating the future. Actually, people spend about 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're doing at any given moment. And while this higher capability clearly has its advantages, it also presents us with some disadvantages. So 2 Harvard University psychologists did a lot of research in this department because they were concerned that the wandering mind might negatively correlate to happiness. Doctors Killingsworth and Gilbert, respectively, conducted a study of 2,250 test subjects, ranging in age from 18 to 88, representing a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds and occupations. I'm kind of simplifying the process, but they basically checked in with them several times a day over a long period of time to gauge what was on their minds at that moment and what their correlating level of contentment was. After much microanalysis, the general conclusion was that, quote, a human mind is a wandering mind, and a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. The researchers found that people were happiest when engaged in the following activities: sex, exercising, sports, or conversation. And they were least happy when resting, working, or passing time on their laptops. The more they examined different activities, the more they realized that it wasn't simply about being universally enjoyable activities. A common denominator, when you consider sex, exercise, sports, and conversation, is that those activities require that you be fully present in the precise activity you're participating in. More specifically, the study's correlation attributed 4.6% of the person's happiness in any given moment to the specific activity itself, and a 10.8% correlation to their level of mind wandering versus being present or mindful. That means whether a person's mind is in the present or not has twice as much impact on their happiness as what they're doing. Using a technique called time lag analysis, researchers further determined that, quote, mind wandering is an excellent predictor of people's happiness. In fact, how often our minds tend to leave the present and where they tend to go is a better predictor of our happiness than the activities in which we're engaged. So, he's saying that mind wandering isn't the cause of subjects' unhappiness, rather the consequence of it. And the study concluded with, quote, the ability to think about what is not happening is a cognitive achievement that comes at an emotional cost. So let's examine that a little more. Okay, we know that far less evolved animals default to living in their present moment, but the human brain seems to want to default to mind wandering for one reason or another. And in fact, during times of overwhelming stress, our brains use daydreaming as a quick and easy escape from what is. Now, I chose the word default deliberately because it brings to light something that's happening in your subconscious. So now, if our brains are smart enough to enlist daydreaming to give us a break from stress, why is that a bad thing? Like, aren't we just protecting ourselves? Well, yes and no. We're protecting ourselves from the feelings and emotions of that moment. But that momentary reprieve isn't a solution or even a comfort. It is avoidance and dissociation. Looking away and daydreaming doesn't change the way we will feel about our stresses when they return to us. And they will return to us. This is where it can begin to make sense that the findings of the Harvard study that correlate escaping your now with decreased peace and happiness support what I've been saying about the peace you can bring to your overall existence by learning to live in the now, learning to be aware of what you're feeling now, learning to tolerate unpleasant emotions so we don't create the bad habit of avoiding things we don't want to look at. Because remember from, I think it was the perception video, maybe? Whatever thought habits you repeatedly have will strengthen themselves. So if you're in the habit of avoiding things that upset you, that's the response that will strengthen in your brain. And as your avoidance response grows stronger, your brain actually begins to assimilate it with danger. And your mind starts to process it as though thinking about things that upset you puts you at risk for actual imminent harm. And your mind wants you to keep doing what you've told it is good for you and avoid what's bad for you. But the good news is that it works in two ways. So once you're at the point where you understand that what is good for your peace and stability is allowing yourself to see what's in your now without avoiding it, you can make that your brain's default. You see, whether we're talking about learning to walk as a baby or learning to speak a new language as an adult, the learning phase is very deliberate. It takes a lot of effort and concentration and awareness. But over time, the thought process required to do these things moves to your subconscious. It becomes automatic. Learning mindfulness, learning to be aware of what you're thinking and feeling as you go about your day, begins as a deliberate exercise, but can become a way of life. And this is way more relevant to you as an officer than you might know, because your peace is determined to a great extent by the amount of control you have over your environment. The more you can control it, the safer you feel, and the less likely you are to be blindsided. And this goes both for your life events and your inner dialogue. The more control you have over your thoughts and emotions, the safer you are from things like anxiety and panic attacks, and the less likely you are to be blindsided by things like flashbacks, nightmares, and mood swings. So, where mind wandering is not the ideal state of mind for your optimal peace, we can consider your best state of mind as mindfulness. It is truly one of the best tools you can choose to have personally and professionally, not only to stay aware and in charge in stressful situations, but as long-term titanium armor for your mental health. I truly believe that mindfulness will someday be a standard prerequisite to teach officers at the very beginning of their careers. It deserves its very own video, but for now, I'd like you to understand mindfulness as a skill you develop through deliberate practice, which over time allows you to be almost constantly aware of your physical, mental, and emotional state automatically. No more being on autopilot in your own mind and only being aware of the symptoms of your thoughts and feelings, not really sure why you feel that way. Practicing mindfulness is the action, the step you must take in the journey to peace I've talked about so many times. And hopefully it's taken on an even deeper meaning for you now. Because the 3 steps to peace I've mentioned throughout our videos, awareness, understanding, and control, are the path to mindfulness. That's it for now. Be well.